Okay, so given all that new code over here, let's go ahead and try to run that. And I left this open. There is an error in my code right here. So what I did was I had this code was originally like this, and that works just fine. But then I broke that out into 2 lines as I was explaining everything. So there's a couple ways to fix that. Number one, I could put the code back to the way it was before. Or number two is we could say that what we're doing is passing in a block of code here instead. So with the parentheses that I had here before, it was expecting just one value in this area, and I have 2 values in this area. So as I just showed, I could either make this a multi-line block of code using these curly braces, and that will work, or you can go back to the previous code that I had before. So if I go back here, make sure I save that, and then come over here and run it, all should be well. Okay, there we go. Everything is running. And now testing should be very similar to what we had last time. So let me see. I would like to look at getting all of them first. So we'll try to get all with the -I parameter. You can see no content. I could try to get one value like that, no content. Try to get another one. That'll be no content. I started to do AAA, and that will also fail with the no content error there. So what we could do now, actually, let's try a delete and see what happens with a delete. And again, I don't know why I would use -V there. You use -V if you want to see that, if you want to show all the parameters that you're sending and receiving. So let me clear that and paste that in. And that gives you much more information, so you could see that it's finding the host, it's doing some handshaking, connecting to the local post. This is the HTTP delete request that it sends, so it goes to /to-do/1 and says, please try to delete number 1. And then we have that information there before, and all the information is sent off. You can see all the arrows going to the right up here is what we're sending to the server, and then all the arrows coming back to the left are what we're getting back from the server. So what we get back is the 404 not found. And then down there we have the custom error message. So that is from the delete code, which should be right down here. So we're getting that status not found, and then this text right here is what that is right there. Okay, so far so good. Now let's go ahead and start adding some entries. I'll clear all that. And we want to add this one. And that looks good. And add this one. And hopefully that's all good. And we come back up here and say, give me all the to-dos like that. And again, if you want to see the details, I should say that that worked. And then if you want to see all those details with the -V option of curl, you could do that. And we see that same information up there before. This is our HTTP GET request to the server right there. It says GET /to-dos. And then the arrows coming back to the left are from the server side. So we get the 200 OK content type here. Oh, that's why I was showing this. Okay, great. Okay, I just remembered why I was doing the -V option. So what I wanted to do was show this content type. So that is a content type of application JSON. And we see that in the code over here. That's coming from this part right here. So we're doing the get all, and then this is response.json. So that method right there specifically is what's making this application JSON. And I can prove that if we stop that. We could change this to something else, such as text, and save that. We'll run that again. Okay, that starts the server. And if I try to do that right now, you'll see we don't get anything because we have to add something first. So here, let's add the first entry like that. And now if I do that curl -V, we will see the content type now here is text/plain. So if I didn't stress this enough previous videos, that's what I was intending to do, was say that that guy right there is now text. So this is text/plain. But the correct solution should be to make that JSON, because that's what a client will be expecting, is to see the JSON response over here. So let me stop that and restart it. Clear this down here. We could do those adds again. So we will add number 1, and then we'll add number 2 right there. Then we go back and show that one again. And again, now we see application JSON as the content type. Everything else is okay. And then this is the pretty JSON content right down in this area right here. So far so good. What else did I want to do? I am doing the get all. I can do get one now that that is working. And let me get rid of that dash V now because that's, oops. Let me get rid of that dash V now because that is a little hard to read after a while. It's good for debugging, but otherwise a little hard to read. And I just deleted number one, I think previously there. So let's try. Let's get all again, like that. Okay, number one is in there. Let's see if I did something wrong here. So that should be getting number one, and that should be getting number one. There we go. So it's just the wrong path I had in there. So that is working. So getting all is working, getting one is working, deleting one. Let's go ahead and delete one. And go back and test that. Okay, so number one is gone. We only have number two left. Let's try deleting something that doesn't exist, like that 999. And come back over here. And I want to see at least dash I output here. Maybe dash V as well. Sorry, how about this? That one is better. So what I was looking for was a delete right there. We do have that. And then we get a 404 not found, which is what we want to be getting, I believe, from the delete code. Okay, so what's happening in the delete code over here is we're calling delete, and we're trying to delete that ID of 9999. Of course, that doesn't exist. So what happens is this delete function does not throw an exception or anything like that. It just comes back and we're going to tap the exist value, and that's going to be false. So then we get the ZIO log info. So we should be seeing some logging over here. So we're looking for something that says delete and then ID equals that and value exists equal that. So right there we have delete ID equals 9999, value exists equals false. So that is just tapping this for our log information. So there's not an error up here, it's a success value. So we don't have to worry about tapError and mapError. Now we come down to map, and exist is false, so it's not going to be up here. We're going to come down to the else clause. We're going to get this response status not found, and then the body will be that to do with ID not found, and that status not found is what we get right here, and then that printout right there is what we get right down there with that. So that's perfect. That's exactly what we're expecting from this code. Scroll back up to the top again. And I had in mind that there was something I wanted to test with this code when I was looking at it earlier, and I can't remember what that was. mapError response from throwable, get to-dos. Okay, so what I had in mind that I wanted to show you was I wanted to show how this mapError works with this response from throwable. And to do that, I need to get all to fail right here in our repository. So what I'm going to do is come over here, we'll comment that out. And then I think I could do a ZIO.fail. But if we do that, then we do a new runtime exception. And then we'll call that a simulated database error. Okay, and let me do a tilde compile. So that does a continuous compile in case I did anything wrong. But that is compiling just fine. So let's press enter and then run. And now what's going to happen is every time I call this to-dos handler, the get on slash to-dos, it's going to fail right here, and we should see what this response is right there. So let us go back here in time, and I think I'm going to start with a dash I. That gives us an internal server error is what we're getting from that response from throwable. I don't think I showed this in the previous video, so I wanted to take a few moments to show it here. I'll try the dash V and just see if there's anything else that we could see there. And there's nothing really more interesting there. But because I used this code over here several times, the response.fromThrowable, I wanted to show you what that looks like. So now you can see that. And if you get a copy of this code, I will leave that in there for you. And let's put a little comment in there. Use this to test Response.fromThrowable below. And put that in there as well. Okay, so that's included in there for your future testing fun. And now I do believe that's all I wanted to show. Let me take one more quick look through all the code and see if there's anything else that I wanted to demonstrate. So we got all of that. We got mapError. We have all that. Okay, another thing that could fail, I believe here, is right here. So we want to test how that failure works. I mentioned in the previous videos that we could get some bad JSON here, and I did not test that. So let me clear that, and let's see if I go back to that. All right, I'll give you some good JSON first. And now, what can I do to make that bad? Well, you can do pretty much anything to make that bad, can't you? So let's try something like that. And of course, I need a -v option there as well. Stand by. And that's interesting right there. When I use -v, I get this note that it says I'm using -x unnecessarily because post is already inferred. So that is something you don't see without the -v, but you do see with the -v. So everything up here looks okay. There's the post request right there. Then when we come back from the server, we're getting a 500 internal server error right there. And again, that's coming, actually that's not coming from this line of code failing. That code is doing just fine. The line of code that's failing is, or the portion of code that's failing is right here. My code is trying to take this bad JSON over here and convert it to a to-do value, and that won't work. So it's mapping that error to a new runtime exception, and then that's where we're coming down here eventually and doing what I was doing before and getting that response from Throwable. So that's where we're getting that internal server error right there. So that's very interesting. That is another thing I wanted to test, so I'm glad we got to do that as well. And then if you want to see the delete fail, you would go ahead and you have to modify the delete function right here to throw a throwable or a runtime exception like I was doing before. And then that would come down to this tapError here and the mapError right here. Otherwise, I do believe we have tested everything. So in summary, I hope this video, combined with the previous videos, has been helpful. In all of these videos, we created a basic REST API, and I should say, using ZIO HTTP. So that's what I demonstrated in this last series of videos, including this one. And in this one, we built on the last example by creating something more of a real-world database data store using a service and a ZLayer. So the service you saw here was the interface or trait we created right here, and then the implementation of that trait as a class right here. And then the ZLayer portion, I implemented in the companion object right here, and that's our ZLayer here. And then we provide that ZLayer down here at the bottom of the code right in this area right there. And then finally we reference that when we create the repo right there. So going back up to the top, we did those things, and then I also showed a little bit of logging using tap and ZIO log, and I did that in the delete route. And you see the delete route right here with tap and tapError right there. So again, if you're interested in creating a REST API using ZIO HTTP, I hope these examples have been helpful.